Joining us now is Democratic Senator from California, Adam Schiff. Welcome to The Story Is for the first time.
Great to be with you, Alex.
So let's talk about this seizing of a Venezuela tanker. Your reaction?
Well, deep concern over it. It would be one thing if this was simply an operation to seize a tanker that's trying to evade sanctions. We want to make sure that oil is not going to Iran in violation of sanctions. But if this is part of a run-up to the war, the potential war with Venezuela, and a lot of the other excuses just don't seem to add up. We've been told that the strikes on these boats are about narcotics. We've been told that that this is about immigration, and now we're being told this is about oil and sanctions. What it really seems to be about, Alex, is regime change. And if that is the case, they have no authorization from Congress to go to war with Venezuela in order to change the leadership there. And it's also bewildering at the same time because the president just pardoned the corrupt former president of Honduras for drug running. So something doesn't add up, but the American people don't want us to get into another war, this time with Venezuela.
So if there was a congressional vote to authorize a war with Venezuela for regime change, would you vote no?
I would vote no. We don't need to go to war to change the leadership there. Now, hey, Maduro is a bad actor. He's a murderous dictator. He's an illegitimate leader of that country. That is not to say anything positive about Maduro. I think he's awful. But do we want to go to war to change the regime there? No, I don't think so. And it just, as I said, doesn't add up when we pardon one criminal former leader of a country and now we're going to use all of this military force to depose another. I just don't understand. What's the strategy? What's the plan? What's the policy? None of it really makes sense to me.
I just interviewed your colleague in the Senate, Tim Kaine, who told me that he thinks that these strikes are illegal. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, Tim and I have now introduced a couple war powers resolutions to put an end to these, to make sure that we're not drawn into an unintended conflict or an intentional one.
So
there's no, yeah.
So then, I guess the question is, because it seems like there's a lot of talking about Donald Trump and what he does, and yet he just seems to do it, and there aren't a lot of consequences from Congress. Like, what can Congress actually do? What can the Senate actually do? If this is actually an illegal strike, what can you all do to stop it?
Oh, we could stop it if we had just some modicum of bipartisan support to do it. We had a couple Republicans vote with us in our resolutions to put an end to these attacks on these ships. This was even before we killed these survivors of that one particular shipwreck. If we had more votes, we could put a stop to it. We could stop, frankly, funding going to the Pentagon for the deployment of our naval forces in the region. We could stop the Coast Guard from being funded for those purposes. But it does require Republicans to stand up to the president. And there are a lot of Republicans and a lot of MAGA Republicans who don't want another war. They've been very vocal about it. So this would not be in contradiction to at least some of their base. But we haven't had that willingness to stand up to the president. And so we see things being done in our name as Americans that I think are unconscionable. I want to have the American people see that video of that strike on those two shipwrecked survivors and let the American people judge whether we want that kind of thing done in our name.
It has been a year this week since you were sworn in to the Senate. This is some video of that. Then Vice President Kamala Harris swearing you into a seat that she once held. And just today, you made what's called your maiden speech on the floor of the Senate, where you talked about that first year. Here's some of that.
Within weeks of my swearing in, California was burning. Entire neighborhoods wiped away in minutes. Families sifting through ash where homes once stood. And yet, after every fire I've ever witnessed, one truth endures. When the smoke clears and the embers fade to nothing, people come back to rebuild their lives. Right now, our nation is passing through a different kind of fire. An inferno, division of fear, of dreading the rent checks on the first of the month, and watching institutional guardrails topple one by one by one.
So you've thought about coming to the Senate for a long time, what you'd want to do in the Senate for a long time. Now that you've been there for a year, what's sort of been the biggest thing you've learned while in office that you didn't expect or didn't know before you started?
Well, there's a lot I've learned about the institution of the Senate and about the state of California. One of the first decisions I made was to seek a seat on the Agriculture Committee. I'm the first California senator on that committee in over 30 years. We're the #1 agriculture producing state of the union. That position, that seat at the table, has given me an opportunity to get to know farmers in the North State, in the Central Valley, in the Central Coast, in the Imperial Valley, to get a better understanding of the challenges facing farmers and farm workers with tariffs, with immigration raids, with water issues and regulation. So that has been very eye-opening and very enjoyable. And one of the stories, Alex, I told on the floor tonight was being in Butte County meeting with farmers, and they were initially, I think, a little skeptical of this big city Democrat, but by the end of the meeting, one of the farmers turned to me and said, "I don't know why the president calls you watermelon head. You have a perfectly normal-sized head." So that's what I know is making progress. But in terms of the institution itself, I remember after just a couple months of voting on nomination after nomination, and it wasn't just the cabinet secretaries, it was a whole range of different positions, asking my staff, how long does this go on, the voting on the nominations? And one of my new staff, but a longtime Senate staff, said 6 years. And I thought this was just something that happens in the early days of administration, but no, you vote on all these nominations, and then within a couple of years, those people, a lot of them leave, and you're voting on their replacements, and it never ends. So that has been a surprise, how much time of the Senate is simply occupied by confirmations.
Well, I've been interviewing you for a long time, and I know what a big fan you are of The Big Lebowski and how you think in terms of Big Lebowski quotes and moments. And so what would be one Big Lebowski quote that you can think of that best represents the United States Senate?
Well, I don't know that I would say it best represents the Senate compared to the House, but I do think in politics, I often think of the line, although I don't often speak it out loud, when I hear one of my colleagues, "You're not wrong, you're just an asshole." So I'm not sure you're allowed to play that on TV, but...
You can do that. We're on cable now, so we actually can say that.
But that line does come to mind from time to time.
So you're saying there's plenty of a-holes in Washington, I guess. That's the thing you learned.
I'm sure it's not confined to Washington, but actually one thing, Alex, I do like about the Senate, it is much more collegial. There is more opportunity to get things done, and that is a welcome change from the House.
Well, Senator Adam Schiff, it is great to have you on this show for the first time. We've been talking for so many years, and it's a pleasure to welcome you, and look forward to talking to you many more times.
Thanks so much.
For the second time this year, a federal judge is ordering the Trump administration to end its deployment